As many of you may know, I've been following the work of Alan Wilson and Baron Blackett, who are two historians who started out in the early 1980s researching Dark Age British history, and they have done a lot of work pertaining to King Arthur. And I recommend, if you're not familiar with their work, just go on my website, richplanet.net/history. You'll see all of the TV shows covering Wilson and Blackett's work, and there are some books at the back of the room there. Now, in 1986, their work was recognised by the establishment because the establishment organisation, the BBC, took interest in what they were doing. They sent two journalists to Wilson and Blackett's property. They looked at the evidence that they had, evidence that King Arthur was a South Wales king, king of Glamorgan and Gwent, with principalities in North, East and West Wales, his kingdom probably extending into England. They were very interested in that, and they, as I say, they came to look at their evidence. Wilson and Blackett showed them various stones, one at Ogmore Castle. They took them to various sites and they showed them documents which they say prove that King Arthur was a South Wales king that died in 579 AD. So I'm going to show you a clip. This is the BBC 6 o'clock news in 1986.
The time is 6:16. In common with most historians, the two men believe that Arthur was an authentic king of Britain who gave rise to the legends of Camelot, the Sword and the Stone, Guinevere and the Knights of the Round Table. Laurie Mayer reports.
The apparent proof that King Arthur was man, not myth, is kept at the bottom of a garden in Cardiff. This ancient sword-shaped stone inscribed Rex Artorius, King Arthur, comes from what's claimed to be the legendary king's last resting place. The stone is said to have arrived by boat up the Owenny River near Bridgend 1400 years ago. In their lifelong quest for the real King Arthur, amateur historians Alan Wilson and Baron Blackett have put their interpretation on ancient manuscripts.
An impeccably authentic manuscript of the year 822 tells of the body of a very important man with a stone being brought up this estuary. This is the secret burial of Arthur.
The delivery of Arthur's body upriver was, so the story goes, kept secret because his son was too young to succeed him. According to Wilson and Blackett, this is the very cave where the body was temporarily buried. They point to signs of a square-cut grave hewn by hand from the rock. They claim the local church provides evidence of Arthur's family links with the area. Burial stones they regard as vital clues in their historical detective work.
And this is the stone of Paul, son of Myrick, a brother of King Arthur.
At Ogmore Castle, just down the road, they cite another stone actually naming a King Arthmail, which they translate as Arthur. Wilson and Blackett have now filled several volumes with their exhaustive fieldwork and research, a mass of evidence from so many sources that even academics find it hard to contradict. This bleak hillside, 1,000 feet up, marks the end of their quest. In a church they describe as the Westminster Abbey of the Dark Ages. Wilson and Blackett claim it's cost them their homes, their jobs, and £100,000 to find this spot and say with confidence that here lies King Arthur.
So they're not the only experts who claim that King Arthur was a South Wales king. We've got Professor Morgan of Cardiff University stating this on film, which has been screened on Rich Planet, the author Chris Barber and various other experts. This is the kind of genealogical chart that Wilson and Blackett have produced over the years. We've got King Arthur here, who's dying in 579 AD. Now, if you go on Wikipedia, you will find some of the names on this chart, but you certainly won't find the King Arthurs. And that's because it's something that the establishment has covered up. And the reasons for that, well, we can speculate. Imagine they're digging up a huge historical figure of British history in South Wales. It's a bit like the Braveheart thing, except King Arthur actually won his battles. So this could be something, it could be the thin end of a wedge which the British establishment may not like. Here's Alan Wilson at work at his house, and you go in their house, it's just full of ancient documents and evidence. And the difference between Wilson and Blackett and university historians is that they don't have students to teach. They can set their own agenda and go off and find new evidences, which not many historians do. And the bleak hillside that was screened there in the BBC article is just here. It's just northeast of Bridgend. It's probably about 25 miles from where we are now as the crow flies in Glamorgan. And it's a place called St. Peter's Supermontum, and this is the church here. Now, that article from the BBC was 1986. They actually had this church excavated in 1990, although the BBC didn't come to film it, but they should have. And it seems that once the information about Wilson and Blackett's research had reached the higher levels of the British establishment, I think something was put in place to suppress their work. It was something that was not going to be accepted. But they ploughed on with their research, and they excavated this ruined church, one of the oldest churches in Europe, in 1990. And one of the things that was found in that excavation is this. This is a solid electrum cross, and on it is inscribed Pro Anima Artorius, which means for the soul of Arthur. Now, I don't think you're going to get much more concrete evidence than that, other than actually finding his body of King Arthur being a South Wales king. This is a close-up. This is possibly Arthur on his horse. Now, this is a certificate which shows the metal content of that cross. They have had it independently tested, and it says on the certificate, the metal cross, which is 79% silver and weighs around 2.5 pounds. The metal content of silver with other metals is consistent with artifacts and relics of antiquity. So you can get an approximate date based on the percentages of different metals, and it is from Dark Ages. Now, as I said, this evidence has been denied by the establishment cover-up. There's been more than one murder attempt of Wilson and Blackett, and if you don't believe that, just have a look on my website and watch all of the programs which presents all of the evidence of the murder attempts, the smear attempts in the media. It's absolutely disgusting. Now, I asked Alan Wilson who actually excavated that cross, who found the cross, because I wanted to get independent evidence. I wanted, as I said in part 1, don't believe anything that you see or hear, go and find it out for yourself. So I wanted to ask and find the person who dug that cross up. Alan told me it was Richard Melbourne, but he'd been informed by a Welsh journalist that Richard Melbourne had passed away. So I then endeavoured to find Richard Melbourne's wife, just so that I could get some independent corroboration that yes, he did dig this cross up, and yes, she can remember when it happened. So I went to his house in Maesteg, knocked on the door. Who answers the door? Richard Melbourne. He's still alive. So I then ring Alan Wilson, and I give the phone to Richard Melbourne, and the two of them had an hour-long conversation reminiscing about the dig, you name it. So he was really pleased that his friend, because Wilson and Blackett now live in the northeast of England, they live in Newcastle. So Richard Melbourne then says to me, well, do you want to come up to the church and I'll actually show you where I found the cross? I said I'd love to. So I went up there. This was just about 3 or 4 weeks ago. That's me and Richard outside St. Peter's Church in Glamorgan. And he's pointing there exactly where he dug the cross up. And I've made a piece for the Rich Planet TV show all about this, all about Richard Melbourne. Lovely bloke, 80 years old. And as I say, he got one of his mates in a 4x4 to take us up the mountain. Right, I'm in a place called Maesteg, which is not far from Bridgend, and I'm with Richard Melbourne. Now, Richard took part in the archaeological dig organised by Alan Wilson in 1990 of St. Peter's Church. Now, on that dig, there was an artefact found, which, and Richard was the person who actually dug the thing up. This was the Electrum cross. That's right. With Pro Anima Artorius written on it. So, can you just tell us first, Richard, how did you get involved with Alan Wilson, and what was it that got you onto the dig?
Well, I was always interested in Welsh history, you know, and a mate of mine was a mate of Alan Wilson's. Mm-hmm. And he was saying about this dig up in Supermountain, this church. Would you like to go on it? I said, yeah, I'd love to. So anyway, he arranged for me to go up, and you had to have a permit to get on site. He got me a permit, I went on site. I was there for, I don't know, about a month, I suppose.
What sort of tools did you use?
Well, I was on a trowel, you know.
On a trowel, and what were you be given specific areas to
Yeah,
to go down? Right.
yeah. Scraping away, boring stuff, all boring stuff, but you know, it has to be done. And this day, I was scraping. It was deep. It must have been on a floor level, around the floor level. It must have been a dirt floor in that church. But anyway, I was scraping away, and I thought, it's a funny place for a bicycle pedal to be, because all I could see that bit of silver, you know.
Right.
So I kept scraping away the front of it, and when I'd scraped all the front off, now that cross wasn't showing where Pro Animo Artorias was written. That was the other way.
Right. So it was
Do you know what I'm
face
saying?
down.
Yeah. Well, it's at an angle.
Mm-hmm.
I scraped it off, put the trowel behind it. You can imagine what I thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
On the digs.
Right.
Now, I didn't know the significance of Pro Animo Artorias,
Right.
but I did know the significance of Artorias,
Right.
but not this first two.
So you knew that Artorias was a reference to Arthur.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So anyway,
So was it easy enough to read once you'd lifted it up? Could you read
yeah, I
that?
had to clean it off. There was oxides on it and all that, you know. But the imprint of that cross was still there.
Mhm.
So, you know,
After you'd taken it out the ground.
yeah, it had been there a long time, like, obviously, for it to be there, the imprint of it.
Right. And I've got an aerial view of the church,
Yeah.
Richard. Would you just point out on there approximately where it's around about this point here? So inside the church, I guess this is another entrance here to the left.
Yeah.
So a little way in here. So how long did the dig last for?
But the dig itself, I think, lasted about a month, 5 weeks, I suppose.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Richard. And how many people were involved in the dig on a day-to-day basis?
There must have been about 6 or 8, I suppose.
Right.
Including Alan and...
Okay. And were you involved in putting the tarpaulin over the
No.
over the church?
No.
That was like contractors or something.
Yeah,
wasn't it? Right.
yeah.
Okay. Alan has told the story about how there was a huge gale which kind of wrecked the.
It's terrible.
So can you just explain that? Were you there when?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Right. And Alan said that there was some of the documents were found in nearby valleys and this kind of thing because people actually brought them back and.
I suppose it was, oh yeah, there was documents there. They was on a tape, if I remember.
Mm-hmm. After you found it and took it out of the ground,
Yeah.
Who did you tell first?
There was a chap there called Martin Langford, the archaeologists.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Alan was there. I think he was off site. Or
Yeah, he's
something.
told me that he wasn't there. He wasn't.
No.
He wasn't on the site. So just tell us how then did you? Just tell us what happened after you got it out the ground.
Well, we were all excited looking at it, and you know, and you know, time went on. Alan come back on site.
Mhm.
There was great excitement, wasn't it?
Right.
When, especially with me, when I found out what the significance of
Right.
the cross was.
Right.
And it just went on from there, really. With the bloke with the camera, I know, he was there with a young lady. I forget her name anyway.
So they were filming
Yeah.
the dig,
Right.
which incidentally Alan can't get hold of at the moment. That film has been sort of
I don't.
made unavailable.
Yeah, I didn't see it myself.
You didn't see it.
No.
I don't think anyone's seen it. What about the theory that Arthur's body is in that region somewhere? Do you go along with that, Richard?
Oh yeah, definite. If you read Perseverance and everything, you know, it points to that. That's the area where he is, like.
Right. And do you think he's in the church or in the mound or
I
somewhere?
think he's in the mound myself, in the boat.
Right, the boat-shaped burial mound.
Yeah.
Right. Which is not far from there. It's
This is right from here
next
to the end of the street.
Can I just ask, did you get paid for your work on the dig?
No, no, I
So you
didn't
were
want to pay
voluntary?
him. No,
But I think the archaeologists were paid, were they?
I expect so, I don't
Right,
know.
okay. And did you have any involvement with Allen and Barham after that time?
Oh yeah, yeah. When some chap, I forget his name, he's from my state, he reckoned that that cross was planted there, you know, which it wasn't, definitely not.
Right.
Couldn't have been, impossible for it to be.
Yeah.
Because I thought, and I know the imprint of that cross was in that earth.
Mm-hmm.
Now that couldn't happen if it was planted there.
Yeah. I mean, this is something which certain people have put out this information, and this guy from Maesteg's obviously heard this from someone who's maybe trying to cast aspersions on it.
Well, the inference was I would have been involved in a scam like which I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I found the cross. I know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was there. For anybody to say that that cross was planted there would have to be there and see. And even if they was there and seen, they wouldn't have made that statement.
Yeah, yeah,
You know, because oxides, they can't put oxides on it, can they?
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you get it off stone and earth and all that. But they were
Was there anything else of interest found on that site?
not really.
Because I understand there were some human remains there.
Oh yeah, a lot.
Right. Okay. So this was some graves that were.
Yeah, well, on a higher level, like, you know,
Right.
we went down past them, but it was all treated with respect, like, and that.
After the dig had finished, were you not frustrated that you couldn't dig down further and see if there was more artifacts? Did you think there might have been something more things there?
I don't know. I don't know.
Would you like to see an excavation of the mound?
Oh yeah, yeah, definite.
Right.
There's something of importance there for that church to be there, because that church was put there to honour whoever's in that mound, I think.
Right.
Who that is, I don't know.
Right.
It could be the
King Arthur.
King Arthur, it could be.
Right. And what about further afield than that particular site, other than the church and the mound? Do you have any knowledge of any other sites, Richard?
Well, up in the forestry have covered a lot of evidence up, you know.
Mm-hmm.
For no other reason to grow trees, nothing
Right.
sinister about it, it's just that they grow trees there. But there's mounds all over the forestry up here.
Right.
There's a Roman fort there, there's ancient British fort there, Bulwark, and it's all there. And there's a fort, like, what I have read, that the British were fighting a rearguard action, their family was going ahead of them, and they caught them at this place called Cwmlladfa, which means Valley of Slaughter
Right.
in England. And right there, to the left, there's an ancient British fort.
What's your opinion of Alan Wilson in terms of a historian? Just give us a bit of background on what you know about Alan Wilson.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
And
He's got a mind like a computer. Yes, you ask him anything. And he'll back up everything he says, mate.
yeah,
Where you can check.
they've had quite a lot of problems over the years in trying to get their work recognised.
Yeah.
What's your opinion of that? Have you got an opinion on why it's not being accepted?
Well, I think it's the English establishment, to be honest, historians and all that. And they won't sit down with Alan and discuss history. They won't. As he said, would you get in the ring with Mike Tyson? I've seen him on that. And he was right. Why don't they sit down and talk about it?
Yeah.
Because he'd lose them. And the other reason is because, in all fairness, Alan have slagged the royal establishment off, like, from Victorian times. Most of the stones was stolen, for want of a better word. All the stones in Wales. But why do they try to hide British Welsh history? They don't want us. They don't want us to cast a society.
Yeah, yeah. I think they're maybe worried that there'll be some sort of upsurgence of national identity, which they're going to lose part of their empire, maybe.
Yeah, a bit late for that now, isn't it? But you know, it's terrible what's been happening. I think the world of Alan, I got to be honest with you, and I haven't blinded my judgment on him because I like him or anything like that. It's just everything I have read, he backed up. Backed up. All right. He called German George. You know, the establishment don't like to talk like that. They even said the German Queen, like Queen Elizabeth II.
Yeah, I think.
And they don't like it.
Yeah, yeah. I think he's told me he is happy to speak to establishment people, and he is happy to go along with the current regime.
Yeah.
And not criticise the royals. He said that.
Well, late now, isn't it?
You know that what Alan says is he'd rather have Queen Elizabeth than President Cameron or President Blair.
Yeah.
He's saying that the royal is better than having.
Yeah, she does a good job, doesn't she?
Well,
well,
I'll not make a comment on that, Richard. His historical research kind of undermines the royals, but at the same time, he actually realises that they ultimately are the power. Therefore, he's not going to get anywhere with his history unless it's accepted by them.
That's right. Yeah, I don't know. It's just a bit of a job.
But there's an author called Adrian Gilbert who worked with Alan and Barham on one of their books, The Holy Kingdom. I think that was the one that you showed me, wasn't it? You said that you had a copy of The Holy Kingdom.
Yeah, I got it. Yeah.
He's written a new book apparently, and what he's trying to do in that book is he's took Prince William's genealogy via his mother, Princess Diana, and he's trying to find links to Arthurian monarchy through Diana. So they're trying to bring in and show that William, the future king, has got some British
Welsh.
Yeah. So. Now, why Adrian Gilbert's doing that is, you maybe ask him that, but I guess half of Wales could probably show that they're related to this heritage.
Well, I can take you 8 miles from here and introduce you to a chap who was Eve traced the lineage back to Iaston ap Crugan.
Right.
And he's a farmer.
Right.
So.
All right, Richard. Well, thanks for speaking to us. And Richard's kindly offered the use of a 4-wheel drive.
Yeah.
So at some point later in the week, we're going to have a drive up to St Peter's Church and maybe film the exact spot where you unearthed the Electrum Cross.
Yeah, it's not only that. You see the boat, but it's there. And somebody tried to say, "Oh, it's a sheep pen." Now, if it's a sheep pen, you don't have a narrow opening for the sheep to go in. You have a wide opening. Yeah. But it comes to a point.
All right.
And the road has been altered going to it.
Right. Well, we can film the mound as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks very much for speaking to me today, Richard.
You're more than welcome.
Thank you. We're getting a lift off Richard's friend called Terry. Richard's friend Terry has got a 4-wheel drive that we're going to get him.
When I was up there, it's 20 years now, right? It was an Electra, silver and gold mix, All right. I mean, for 10% anyway. 10%? I hope you're recording this. For Wilson.
He's so cut the bits out that he don't want, don't he?
No, don't cut that out. You sure do. I want 10%.
Who is this person?
He's a historian,
All right.
Very clever man.
And it's in his possession, is it?
Yeah. Well, it was his Dixie.
All right, his dig it was, is it?
Yeah.
And how old do you reckon this cross was?
It's from about 579 AD.
Good God.
That's the time of Arthur, see. There was no graves there, like in the church where I found it.
Yeah.
It must have been the eye or something walking up the eye. And I reckon there must have been a dirt floor there,
There's a ruined church up here, St Peter's, and the guy who bought it, or the two guys who bought it, Alan Wilson and Barham Blackett, they put a fence right the way around it, because they bought the land.
Right.
But it was just ripped down and
derelict, like.
Yeah, it's a derelict church, but they've tried to protect it because it's of historical importance.
Yeah, that's right.
And there's just all of the livestock, sheep and cows and stuff.
It's just overrun.
Yeah, it's just overrun it, like.
Yeah.
But there's parts of it still really need excavating,
Yeah.
Like there's a mound there, which there could be anything in there.
And they still own it to this day, like?
Oh yeah, yeah.
All right, so we're not trespassing.
Yeah, so if we're in the church and the farmer tells us to get off the land, we know we're all right. I think.
We're now right.
So just give Alan a ring.
No, we're all right anyway, because it's public right away. Above the church, right?
There's a thoroughfare through there, is it?
Yeah. We take that up.
Do you think they've actually changed, the farmers changed the road at all there, Richard? Has there been...
Yeah, I'll show you when I get up there now.
Right.
They went right through the boat.
Is that a bit naughty then? Were they not supposed to?
It was a bit naughty, yeah. I don't know who done it, mate.
Right.
You can't say that farmer or this farmer did it.
No, they didn't.
Right.
Farmers haven't got no consideration for the past. They move a boundary, they'll change a boundary, they'll put a road in whenever they want a road, make life easier for themselves, do they?
Right. You know, they shouldn't have done it. Because the road used to go around the boat.
Yeah.
Right.
Now it's cutting.
Go through it?
Some of the boat, yeah.
All right, okay, this is the boat-shaped burial mound.
Yeah.
But the farmer may not even know that it's an ancient mound.
No. That's right.
There's probably no... because some of these mounds have got... They are recognised as ancient monuments, some of them. They've got plaques on them. But they're generally described as Norman. But obviously Alan would say they're not Norman at all. They're much earlier.
They're ancient British.
Ancient British.
Yeah.
Big photograph of that.
Right, so we're part way up the mountain and Richard's just pointing out this tumulus, yeah? So there's a tumulus there which is a mound of some kind. I think it's a burial mound. The farmers ploughed the field all around it. So that's a bit of archaeology there in the middle of that field. Yeah. Alright, let's just zoom out. Okay, well we're heading on up towards St Peter's Church, which is in this direction. Up this track here.
Yeah. No, that is a defence system there, see?
Defence system?
Yeah. Of the fort.
Okay.
Watching this. I don't think your car would have got up your edge.
I don't think it would, no. Well done. I'll tell you what's near the church, or not far, is some pylons. High voltage.
There's pylons, high voltage down below us, straight in front of us. Or is it looking too wet over there? I don't know.
I think the church is just over the brow there.
What do you reckon that is then, Richard, that thing in the ground there? You got an idea? You'd need to excavate it. So we're part way up and we think that St Peter's Church is just over the brow of this hill here. Are we going to try a different road then, Terry? How long is it since you've been up here, Richard?
20 years. Since we did
20 odd years since you did the dig? You've not been up here since you did the dig?
No. Oh yes, I took my wife up there one day. We walked.
Right.
And if I remember, we walked up there and it's straight over there now.
Mm-hmm.
We got a bit of a trip. And down the other side, the church was in a little dell.
Which is the parish road then?
This is on it now.
Oh, this is the parish road?
Yeah. This was the M4 of the 500s. It's
the M4 of the 500s?
Of the 6th century, yeah. Well, you know.
Yeah.
But in Norman times, obviously, the roads are down there.
Yeah.
So this church must have been there in King Arthur's days.
One of the oldest churches in Europe, according to Alan. Where's he going now?
I don't know. It's not a there.
No, just checking the depth on that drop there then.
So, that one He's a good driver, mind he?
Yeah. So Terry keeps getting out to check the
depth of them.
To check.
Oh, yeah, alright. Once you get up there, you'll be alright. Yeah, don't worry.
It's the tyres clear and
I
stuff.
said that before.
Oh.
Nearly fell down that ditch just there. More sensible road up ahead, yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, that's more like it. So
Straight through there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ah, it's going the wrong way. So could we have come up on this road in the first place, Rich?
Yes, most probably, yeah.
I recognise that mound there. There's the church there, look.
Can you see it?
Just straight ahead, yeah, I can see it.
That building on your
Yeah,
left?
that's it there. That's the church, Rich.
Where now?
On the left through that cut there, look. See it there?
Oh, that's it, yeah.
What, a helicopter landed there?
Yeah,
When was that? When you were doing the dig?
yeah. When
Really?
I found that cross, he wanted me to jump in with him, and I said, no, I'm not going in there.
I never heard that part of the story, Richard. Tell us that again. So,
The bloke that was more or less financing it, he's not fully financing it and putting his weight behind it, he provided an helicopter, you know.
all right.
And he said to me, when I found the cross, I don't know, everybody gets a moment of fame, like I suppose.
Right.
He said, have a ride up in the helicopter. I said, no. 2 days after it crashed, not too bad, like, but it...
Right.
And that was it.
Right.
But there it landed.
On just the brow of that hill there, just to the right of the church.
Yeah.
So it landed here. All right. Right, so this road here that we've just come up on, that's actually going through the boat-shaped mound, right?
Yeah.
So where's the actual edge of the mound? Is that it?
There, look, see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That the raised part here.
Yeah. You just go there. On there, look.
All right, I've got it. I've got you now. So this is the edge of it here,
Yeah.
right? So it's coming round, and
There,
then
look, see it?
yeah,
Right on.
the other side, and then right. Okay, so this is all part of the mound here. So this is the edge of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Action. So do you want to point out the approximate spot, Richard?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you remember which way you were facing when you were digging? You were facing that way?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. And which way was the cross orientated to the church? Was it?
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Getting like, and it was at a slight angle.
Right. So the top of the cross was facing
Yeah.
behind us.
Yeah.
Right. So it was facing east-west, I guess, and in the same orientation as the church.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were.
Which is the Christian line for churches, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
When they were digging here, there was an overhang there. Right here. Still there.
An overhang.
Yeah. As I remember it. I think it'd have collapsed since then. And there were features in the wall on the altar.
Right. So where would the altar have been, Richard?
Must have been there.
Right. So this is the altar where we
Yeah.
where we stood now, or just in front of it.
Yeah. Well, you know. You had the congregation here.
So the congregation would have been in that side there. So Richard there is just on the edge of the boat-shaped burial mound. We'll get an aerial view of it from Google Earth. He's just standing on the edge. It goes.
Yeah, now that church has just got cows grazing on it. And if it was converted into a tourist attraction and the truth brought out about it, you've got a hugely important area here in South Wales. And this is what Alan Wilson's point is, that it would bring 30,000 jobs, he claims, to the South Wales region. People would come from all over the world to Glamorgan to see that site if it was excavated further and it was given its proper name. Now, one of the mounds that Wilson and Blackett have written about is a mound at a place called Unisabul, not far from here. And this is it here. It's a naturally occurring hill, but on top of it, they claim that there's an additional piece of earth put on there, and they've actually had ground penetration radar testing done on this hill. They've also had deep metal detection done on this hill. So this is a huge earth mound. So this is Alan in 2005 with the ground penetration radar equipment. Now, based on the tests that they did in 2005, they did deep metal detection, which I'm going to speak about in a second, and they did ground penetration radar testing, and also comparing this mound with other mounds that have got things inside them. This is what Wilson and Blackett claim is inside. Like I say, it's not far from here. He reckons there's an excavated chamber with 5 drainage shafts coming off the north side of the hill, and these keep this area dry, take all the water off. And he reckons there's an excavated tunnel into the side. This is a cross-section of one of the drainage sumps, so they've got special stones in which prevent any sort of weeds growing around there, so that the sump can allow water to flow through it. This is a photograph of one of the sumps, which you used to be able to see on Google Earth. You can't see them anymore for some reason now. And now this is Alan Hassel, who did the metal detection for them in 2005. And again, don't believe anything anyone tells you. Try and find it out yourself. And I've interviewed Alan Hassel, who's an independent researcher. I should have recorded the telephone call, but I didn't. I spoke to him for about 2 hours, and this is from my notes of speaking to him. He said that he used a Pulse Star 2 metal detector. These metal detectors, they're a metre square. The coil is huge. You stand in the middle of the coil, you've got like a box of electronics. They're 2,000–3,000 pound each. So that's the metal detector that he used, which will go down 20–30 feet. He marked out a 30 to 40 yard square on top of the hill. He scanned the land in 1 metre wide strips, horizontally and vertically. After 45 minutes, he hit a huge target. The device went off the scale. By scanning vertically and horizontally, he determined the target was approximately 2 foot by 4 foot non-ferrous metal. He then used ground penetrating radar. Well, he didn't. Wilson and Blackett did, but he witnessed the ground penetrating radar picked up 2 of the drainage tunnels. He also confirmed that the farmers didn't come to witness the find. Okay. Now, I'm not sure what's in there, but I'm pretty sure that some of this archaeology is there, and I think there's probably something inside the hill. But I have no clue what's in there. Wilson and Blackett claim, and in order to understand why they think this, they claim that it's the Ark of the Covenant. Now, I don't know that. The Ark of the Covenant, for those who don't know, is the box which Moses had built in round about 1400 BC, in which to house the 10 Commandments, which were written on stone, 2 tablets of stone, given to Moses by God. I have no idea that this artifact is inside of that hill, but I think there is something in the side of that hill. Now, if this was inside of that hill, I think it's worth digging the hill up. Because as you might know, I'm into UFOs, and I suspect that Moses, or the person who was Moses, because some people say Moses was a title, I suspect that that event on Mount Sinai did happen, and something happened there, and some law was given to Moses to give to the people, but I don't think that word was the God of the universe. I think there's an intermediary going on here. I think it was a God, not God, but a God. That's just my opinion. I don't want to offend anyone who is a Christian, right, or a Muslim, or a Jew, right? But just my opinion, I think that there are advanced beings who've been on this planet before us and who possibly had a hand in making us, right? And I think that event on Mount Sinai was extremely important. So whatever's inside here is evidence of that. Who wouldn't want to see that? But as I say, I'm not convinced the Ark of the Covenant is there, but I think it's worth excavating it just to see what is there. Now, when I spoke to Wilson and Blackett about this, they said that there was kind of a stalemate between the farmers who own this land, and they weren't allowing them back on the land. they just kind of saw them as pests, really. So I was interested to go down and speak to the farmers and find out why they weren't wanting to have some tests done on this area. And now you've suspected that that was there since when? The sort of mid-80s?
I got a photograph from my colleague there in 82.
I'm at a village called Ynys y Bull in South Wales, and behind me is a hill on top of which is a man-made mound. According to Alan Wilson, the Ark of the Covenant is buried inside the man-made part of this hill behind me. And he has in the past tried to get this hill dug up. He's approached the Welsh authorities, he's approached the farmers. The farmers have been talked out of having any excavation done. So I'm intrigued to speak to the owners of the land, a farm just a few minutes down the road here. So I'm going to knock on the door. So I spoke to the two farmers, two brothers. I had about a 25-minute conversation with them, and then I've recorded my recollection of that conversation. It was quite a delicate negotiation. I asked if I could go on the land to take some photographs, and straight away they said no. Now, they said that they weren't convinced that he'd actually found anything, and they said that he hadn't actually shown them any concrete results, that there was anything there, so therefore they weren't prepared to have their land dug up based on what they thought was nothing. But they then did say that having said that, they didn't go up there and see what he was doing, they didn't show much interest. So I've persuaded them to at least have an independent person come on the land and do another test, and if they do find something there and they can demonstrate it to them, they would possibly then consider having the land excavated. So that's October 2011. I managed to get a verbal agreement off them for me to get an independent person and do some more tests, and then possibly have some investigation done after that. The reason why I'm telling you this is because so many people ask me, what's happening with that hill in Ynys y Bull, Richard? When are you going to dig it up? And I'm just illustrating to you that I have tried my best to help Wilson and Blackett with this. Okay? Now, so what I did, I put that verbal agreement in writing, and just to confirm what was agreed, that they were agreeing for me to get an independent person to come on their land. Right, so I actually put an appeal out on the TV show for anyone who's got the type of equipment that can test that land, and I got a reply from a company called Mack International Limited, and they do testing for Second World War bombs. Now the guy was called John Morrison, and I agreed with him that we would go to Ynys y Bull on Saturday the 14th of April 2012, and I sent the farmers a letter explaining this, and I sent them company literature from Mack International Limited explaining to the farmers that they would get a full report from this land scanning, and then and it wouldn't cost them anything, and there would be no disruption to their land. So I informed the farmers that we were going to be there on the 14th of April 2012. After I sent that letter, I got a phone call from them saying, hang on, we want to go through a solicitor with all this, we're not quite happy about this. So I went away, I spoke to Wilson and Blackett, and we said, fine, that's not a problem. We will even pay your solicitor's fee to get an agreement drawn up that we can come on the land and do this scanning. So I then followed that up in writing, saying that we were prepared to pay their solicitor's fees, that we were quite happy for them to have some contract in place before we go on the land. I then reminded them of that fact on the 10th of May, and I rang them several times throughout 2012 saying, well, have you appointed a solicitor? Can we speak to your solicitor? Or have you got an agreement? And they either didn't come to the phone, this is Alan Edwards, the farmer, or he just didn't seem interested. He hadn't appointed a solicitor. So I kept ringing, he hadn't appointed a solicitor. So the final throw of the dice in April last year, I went there, and I've just recorded this conversation. I left the camera running in the car, went to the farmhouse, and I'm just showing you this to show you the intransigence of these farmers, because I don't understand it. That's Alan Edwards' house. Hello, can I speak to Alan, please?
Yeah. Who was it, sorry?
My name's Richard Hall. I think you might know who I am. It's I was here about 18 months ago, just asking about the twin ECOG and possibly getting it metal detected and scanned. Yeah. I've written him a few letters. The last one was in April last year, April 2012. I think the last time I spoke to him, he said you were thinking of going to a solicitor just to get an agreement.
We haven't done anything about it. We haven't done anything about it.
Haven't done anything about it.
No, I don't know whether he's here actually, because they're lambing at the minute.
Oh, right, okay.
But, hang on a minute. No, he's still at working, sorry.
All right, okay.
We'll be back until about 8 o'clock.
All right, 8 o'clock, okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know whether you're aware of the claim, because the claim is that there's a huge treasure there.
Yeah.
Okay. And I mean, do you know why he wouldn't just want to allow a land scan? Has he said why, or?
Has Alan said why?
Yeah.
No, I don't. No. At the moment, I don't think they're really interested.
They're not interested.
No.
Okay. Do you think that's because they don't believe the claim, or someone said something to them, or
they don't believe the claim?
They don't believe it. Have you seen any of the? Because I've produced several TV shows covering the history of it. You've seen them, yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So that wouldn't be enough to allow us on the land and just have a scan.
No.
Right.
No.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
All right. So because he did say that he would if he was going to do something, he would need to get a solicitor to draft up an agreement. We agreed to pay for that.
Yeah.
But you still wouldn't be interested.
Well, he hasn't mentioned it lately. No.
He hasn't mentioned it.
No.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thanks for your help. Okay. Thank you. Bye bye now. I didn't speak to Alan Edwards, but I spoke to his wife, and it's just the same as last time. They're just not interested at all. Yeah, right. Home Jeeves. So I've given up on them, and if anyone else wants to, well, I don't know how you might find their contact details. Right. Okay. Can anyone explain that? Alan thinks that they've been got at. Someone said something to them. Am I bonkers for wanting to dig that hill up?